moving on. Yes, Yasmin, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if I could motion to have like a 10-minute break for everyone, or like a recess. What is it called? Sorry, I just feel like everyone probably needs a break. Maybe like move your legs, stretch a bit, and we still have a long way to go.
Do you guys want to just vote to accept Robert's report and then
After that, obviously,
take 5
yeah.
minutes?
All right, do we have a mover for Robert's report? The be resolved, board accepts the quarterly staff update as presented. Do Alex as the mover and a seconder. I'll go with myself because it doesn't look like anybody likes Robert's report. All those against? I'm assuming everyone else is in favor. 9-0. All right, so now we have a motion to recess for 10 minutes. I'm assuming Yasmin is the mover for this. Do we have a seconder? Austin? All those against? Anybody want to be a shit disturber and just, I'm kidding. Alex, okay. Item. The next item is the executive update. It was going to be done by Andy.
Thanks, James. This was circulated beforehand, so if you all should have been able to see this on the board portal. If not, someone please let me know. It's just giving out a quick little point form outline of the kind of things that we've been working on in the last little bit. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask away right now, but this is just a snapshot of everything. And yeah, back to you, Chair.
All right. So, be it resolved, the board accepts the executive update as presented. Do we have a mover? Alex, do we have a seconder? Myself. Cool. All those against? All right, I will assume that it is 9-0.
Just the execs, do you guys want to abstain from accepting your own report?
Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Same here.
So we got 12, 10.
Okay, 7-0.
Oh, 3. Is that right? Can't see. Okay, we're good. Do the next one.
13, Senate appointment also was going to be done by Ann. It is also going to be taken by Boston.
I wish I was Andy right now on vacation, but I'm bringing forward the Senate item. So just context for everyone, there was a student senator who was removed because of poor attendance. Last year, there was, and in previous years, there's been a consistent issue with student senators attending meetings, and some have been removed from committees and removed from Senate as a whole. So this one was removed from Senate as a whole, and we needed to replace this senator immediately. So the university in its faculty handbook said that if we needed to fill it in, you can see at the bottom of your screen right now, in the event of a resignation, a graduate student member Senate, and an undergraduate student member elective Senate, blah, blah, blah. BUSU shall appoint a replacement until such time as an election can be conveniently held. So basically, that is the university giving us permission as board to appoint a new student senator. We ended up accepting applications. Those applications were filtered out and the top candidates were brought to the current student senators who decided which one they wanted to join the ranks. The names were withheld from the documents. It just had the answers and from the application. So yeah, if you have any questions, please ask away, but this is just us approving what the senators decided.
Does anybody have any questions? I actually have a question myself. So in the little bottom text, it says that BUSAC, which in this case is the board, shall appoint a replacement until such time as an election can be conveniently held. But in our little thing up here, it says that we are approving Emmeline for the term ending in June 23rd. Should it not say approving until an election can be held, such as October? Austin, would you like to answer?
Yeah, so actually it's conveniently held or until the next regular election. So we're just making this easier for ourselves and are appointing this individual for the remainder of the previous person's term, which would be ending June 2023. As we've had discussions before, sometimes elected personnel are not always the best at attending. For example, last year, one person was removed from Senate completely. 2 people were removed from committees and 3 people had warnings. So there's an overwhelming amount of the elected people who were not actually contributing properly to Senate. So we're hoping that this one who is going to be appointed, who is driven, whose their application actually had a lot of experiences and responsibilities beforehand, that they would be able to hold out for the entire remainder of the term.
Thank you for the answer, Austin. Carly, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if any of the it's like me and I think Ben's the only other one in here. But as senators, if we should abstain since we were the ones who made the selection.
I think you're gonna get the same answer we've been giving out to the whole meeting. It's really up to you. Kaylee or Robert, would you like to answer that? Maybe give a little more clarification.
I think from my way of seeing it is that you voted on them once already. So maybe it would be best for you to abstain this time around, just as if something were to go to, never mind, I'll just leave it at that, but it may be best to just abstain, just to be safe.
Okay, I thought so. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
No.
Yeah, you
It
can.
doesn't
I
say
can
I'm
now.
Can-
not on mute.
We can hear you. Never mind now. We can't.
Not anymore.
Burger. Oh.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? All right, just speak through here.
Where am I? Be it resolved, the board appoints Emmeline Berger to the Senate for the term ending June 2023. Do I have a mover? All the hands went up at the same. We'll go with Carly. Oh no, wait, Carly and Ben are abstaining, right? Is that what your hands are for?
Sorry, I just forgot to lower it, but yes, I'm going to abstain. So I won't be moving it.
Ben is asking for a quick clarification. Ben, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just, prior to reviewing the candidates as a student senator, I just felt that, like just before even like starting that process, I thought it could be beneficial to have a by-election. So I still think it could be beneficial. So I did just want to share that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the student senators meeting. But, I just wanted to share that thought. Thank you.
And I think we're still going forward with this motion. So be it resolved, the board appoints Emmeline Berger to the Senate for the term ending June 2023. From the top, Alex and Mark is a mover and a seconder. All
Sorry,
those,
did you say Alex and Mark?
yeah, Alex and Mark.
Okay.
All those against. All those, and then I'm assuming everyone's in favor.
Ben, did you want to abstain? Austin's abstaining too. Yep. Okay, good. Coca. Who is covering the Coca?
So this is going to be Andy, but I will cover this one. So essentially, if you went over the documents for the Student Unit Development Summit, it mentions that Andy, for one, hasn't attended any conferences. Austin is going to attend BUSU, and then it also mentions that Yasmin and Fatin attended COCA in Ottawa. I think that was last month. It states that Yasmin's was accounted for in the budget and it was approved by the board, while the expenses for Fatin were not. So I felt that there was a bit of information missing and we needed a bit of clarification because, I mean, the information was missing there. So we have here the funding. Yasmin is included. This is just a screen grab from the, what's the word, Excel sheet. And down here we have Fatin spending. Does anyone have any questions about the spending down here? Fatin, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, it's not a question, it's more so a statement. I was going to bring this to board, well, just to mention that this wasn't brought to board before I went to COCA because I decided to go very last minute, so there wasn't time to set up a last minute board meeting and get it approved. But I was going to bring it to board eventually when I did my visa statement. So that would have been done by me, but if you want to do that, James, that is fine too.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Oh, did you guys not hear what I said? Is my mic working?
Yeah, it's just, I think it's my end, to be
Oh.
quite honest.
Oh, I just said like.
I heard you fine. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. James, I just said for the I was just saying for the record, like I would have brought this to board eventually when I did my visa statement, but if you want to do that, you can do that as well.
I just feel like it's missing context for the following item. So does anybody have any questions? Ben, do you have a question? If you do, Ben, you can go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I don't have the strongest connection. Now, I was just looking over, so it's in terms of what's been already spent for the COCA one, you know, it went over by, roughly 3,200. And I'm just looking forward to the SUDS thing. I'm just wondering if potentially to compensate for that, essentially, if I just know that, last year Fatin and Austin did go. So perhaps if it's just Yasmin and Andrea who go on that conference, it will save some money in that way. So that's the one point I wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Austin, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah. Let's save the SUDS talk to when we get to nomination, and I'll happily explain the reasons why the EA position especially should be there, because a lot of the conference sessions are actually centered around the EA's work. But as of right now, let's just hold off onto that so we don't get off topic.
We have a question in the chat from Carly. This is probably best if Fatin or Yasmin answers, as they were the ones attending.
Yeah, I can answer. Both. They were on different days and they were purchased on different days. Yasmin's was accounted for in the budget, so her and Ron and Celine, they all got their tickets on the same day, but I got mine later when I decided to go.
Thank you, Fatin. Any other questions? Ben, is your hand up from before, or would you like to say something else?
Yeah, sorry, I was just wondering where it took place.
Ottawa. Sorry, through you, James.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, Carly's got another question. Fatin, if you'd like to answer, you can go.
Yep. I did fly in later. I flew in, I think, a day later. But yeah, so I flew in a day later, and I also purchased it way later, which is why the ticket was more expensive, because I purchased it not early enough for it to be cheaper. But to account for that, I just decided to stay in Yasmin's hotel room instead of get my own, because each person had their own hotel room, but Yasmin was nice enough to let me stay with her, and we saved some money there.
Thank you, Fatin. Alex, you had your hand up. Would you like to say something?
No, don't worry about it.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we can move to the motion. Oh, sorry, Austin has something. Austin, go ahead.
I know Fatin brought this up earlier, but should we do this right now, or should we wait until the visa statement is over? That might be something Robert would probably like to talk on.
For you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Robert.
I don't know at this point in time if this is a comprehensive figure. So this only reflects what is on the visa statements. I don't believe there'll be any increases to the VPSS's costs. There may be some small increases because of the timing. I don't believe our president received a check for per diem. So, at the end of the day, it's at the discretion of the board. If I'm looking at what the fee is right now, I wouldn't see it increasing materially. So, maybe a couple $100, but it's not certainly going to increase by anything close to $1,000. So you can move forward with approving it at this point in time, or you can defer and wait to see the exact numbers. It's more up to you. But I see this being pretty reflective of what we're dealing with, plus or minus 10-15%. Well, more plus 10%. I don't think it will go down. That's what I think it will land up from that perspective. So again, up to you guys.
Aisha, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, please. Thank you, James. I just have a question in regards to us having to approve Fenton's expenses because she didn't have a budget in the budget that was already approved. Is it that previously presidents don't have a certain amount approved in terms of expenses for conferences they're expected to attend? And if it is, would we need to foresee us? I know we have one that we have to approve, which is for the SUDS, which we have to approve after this. But I'm just trying to understand why Fenton didn't have, or the president's rule doesn't have a certain amount approved in the budget.
Fenton, is your hand up to answer?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, to answer. Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, Aisha. So basically what's accounted for the president is SUDS, and typically like what the only exec that goes every single year is the VPSS. So that's why that's accounted for in the budget. The president doesn't go every year. The president has gone in the past, but not every year. So it's more so like I went because I know student engagement is a priority this year. So I thought it would be beneficial for me to go. Other years it may not be deemed beneficial to the president, but SUDS is something that usually the whole exec team from every school attends. So that's why it is accounted for me and for the, or that's why it would usually be accounted for me and the other execs. But yeah, so I hope that answers your question. I don't know, I was all over the place.
Robert, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so in my duration, this is my sort of 5th year through, because the actual budget was actually Kate that developed it. It then went through to the students and then went to the board for approval. So in our experience, certainly the VPEA goes to USA. So we've certainly seen that. And we've certainly seen, for example, the VPSS attend, COCA on a regular basis. And then we have seen certainly the one role that really hasn't had much to travel to has been the VPFA role. They've been pretty deficient in that area. So that's, when budgets were being developed. Now, the other thing I'll also mention is that, Ben also mentioned this too, is that there was $2,000 budgeted for COCA and there was $3,000 spent from the VPSS. That has nothing to do with the VPSS. That really is a budgetary under projection. It will certainly work out in the macro budget, but moving forward, that should be projected at slightly more money. And part of that has to do with the fact that, airfare went up a little bit, hotel money went up a little bit. And, we budgeted 2,000 and in fact it was 3,000, but there was really nothing the VPSS could have done. It wasn't like she did anything lavish or out there. That was more of a budgetary under projection rather than any sort of egregious spending. So I will comment on that.
Thank you, Robert. Alex, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, James. I just have a question for Fenton in particular. So you said that you went to this conference here because you thought it'd be beneficial for the president to go. Totally makes sense to me. I'm just curious, what do you feel that you would have taken away from this conference that could help you in your position here at BUSU?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Alex. Yeah, so I did this.
Fenton, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, can I just ask Alex to repeat what he said because it completely lagged out for me.
For sure. I was just asking what she felt that she got out of this conference, just because she did say that she went because she thought it would be beneficial for the president to go this year. So I just wanted to know like what she particularly benefited from.
Yeah, sure. James, I'll speak through you.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I did go, there was other presidents there as well, from other universities. I mean, I could come back with like a report if you would like or something like that, but like generally there was like, it just all had to do with events and clubs and student engagement in general. And Yasmin does report to me, so it's nice to, you know more or as much as I possibly can about these things. Yeah, I mean, I have some notes I could bring back to you. There was workshops that we went to, and there was also some performers that I know Yasmin is considering for Frosh Week and stuff like that. So
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for the question. Thank you, Fatin, for the answer. Ben, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you. Yes. Well, first I'll thank Robert for clarifying some of this. And now I guess just one thing is in terms of like the principle, I believe, of like, just making sure we're doing these approvals like in advance. Like just going back, previously, like I like last year with I believe it was, yeah, so for suds, some of the board members felt like tickets being purchased in advance of like a proposal to approve is putting it in a difficult spot. And I just, in that principle for the COCA, for the president here, I just feel like following along the principle of approval in advance. I wouldn't support that part of it, just to be consistent. Thank you.
Carly, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, my Zoom, sorry, is like being very strange, but can you hear me? Is this working?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I guess kind of wanted to see, I don't know if you just didn't mention this or if it didn't happen, but I know since like the other people's budgets were approved, I understand the not wanting or like not feeling that this was necessary to call some sort of like emergency board meeting. But I know there have been things that we've kind of discussed via email, or like if you spoke to even like Robert or something beforehand about this, like before booking tickets and stuff, or kind of what that process was like, seeing as you didn't come to board beforehand.
Fatin, if you'd like to go ahead, you can go ahead.
yeah, for sure. So Ben and Carly, you guys kind of said similar things, so I'll just give one answer for both. For the record, I was planning on bringing this motion forward in the August meeting, since I would have done my visa statement by then, and I would have had an actual like presentation type thing with all these questions most likely already answered. So I don't want you guys to think like anything. This was put on the agenda today by James, and I didn't even know it was put on the agenda. So like until I saw it. But basically I didn't mean to like, it's not like I wanted to put a board in like a hard spot or anything like that. But I didn't know, like I had been asked by other presidents if I was attending, and I didn't know this was something that like presidents like can attend or like usually attend. And then I also I asked about it, and I know like some past presidents have attended this this conference at BUSU. So this was like very last minute. So I was like, okay, like I think this would be really beneficial. And Robert was on vacation. I did try messaging him, but I didn't expect him to answer. And I know Kate was interim general manager. So I did message Kate about this. And Kate was you know, she kind of helped me go through with it, and she told me that board could just like I could just bring it to board after I go because of how last minute it was. So I did that. Like I didn't really know how to go about it, so I did ask her for advice. And yeah, I did that like through messages and stuff like that. And she kind of just walked me through like what the right way in her opinion is to go about this. So that's what I did. And yeah, so it's not something like I'm expecting to like be doing and just like spending things and then coming aboard after and saying, hey, I did this, please approve it. But it was just kind of like a situational type thing. I wish I knew I could go, or like I wish if I had known while like the staff the staff booked for like Yasmin and everything, then I would have just booked with them and I would have requested it way in advance. But like I didn't really know that it's something that I could be attending. So yeah, I hope that answers your questions, but if not.
That answered mine, thanks.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Fatima. Faison, if you'd like to go ahead, feel free to do so.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering. Is it possible? Okay, so Yasmin did go on this, right? Correct. If I'm correct. James. Yeah. Okay. So honestly, I'll be honest with you. I don't really. I just wanted to know like what Coca really was, because I didn't quite understand the whole activities that go down with it. So I was just wondering if maybe Yasmin could tell us this time, and how can I be trying? So, yeah.
Yasmin, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So Fatima might have explained a bit about it. COCA, or Canadian Organizations of Campus Activities, it happens annually. It's organized every year. A university is the host of it. This year was La Cité College. It was taking place at Ottawa. It's basically a student life summit. So all of the universities are invited. I'm unmuted. All the university, James is making fun of La Cité because he's from Ottawa, and that's just a thing that they do, I guess. But all the universities are essentially invited. We, as the student life department, decided it would be appropriate for the department to go on the trip. So Ronsdale, Ron, Celine, and I all were organized to go. Fatin felt that the president should go as well. So that's why it was kind of last minute. But again, it was pretty fine. We ended up sharing the room, so that's fine. But essentially what we did during the mornings, we had different workshops, different activities and conferences that we would attend that would help us with things like how to run and manage clubs, how to plan events, how to basically essentially do your job as in my position, BPSS. And so I got to network with a bunch of different universities, which is, we got to do something called block booking. So a lot of the events that we'll be doing during Frosh Week and throughout the year will be done in collaboration with other universities. So that was essentially the daytime things. It was a lot of just taking notes down, studying, and it was basically a really good way for me to prepare myself for this role. At nighttime, we would go to different campuses or different places around Ottawa with the other universities as well. And the organizers would have different activities in place for us. So one night we had basically a variety show where we watched different performers take the set and take the stage. And from there, it was kind of like we were judging them. So we had a notebook, writing down everything that we needed. Afterwards, we would network with them, ask what their prices are, what their availabilities are. And then after all that, we would discuss with the campuses and see if we wanted to do anything from there. So yeah, that was essentially what COCA is, Faison. It was a really good experience. And I don't get me wrong. I think this is beneficial to anyone to attend. Like it was very beneficial for me, and I took a lot from it, and it was a great experience. And it really did help me a lot with what my role is right now. It was a really good way to, like, I guess, train me into what I'm doing right now. So yeah, if you have any other questions, I'm fine to answer them as well.
Yasmin, you mentioned activities, right? Like, as in they had them set up and whatnot. So I'm assuming that like you guys both equally went to the same type of activities, correct? Like everyone went to the same amount of activities, made full use of it at the trip and whatnot.
Well, yeah, I think that when we were able to attend. I myself, yeah.
Okay. No, you continue.
I myself went to all of the events that I was able to attend. It's you usually go to what you deem is necessary for your position. So for example, some of the clubs workshops, I would have Celine go to those ones. I attended a few myself, but sometimes you would delegate them to different people. That's for myself speaking. But yeah, I attended pretty much everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Faison. Thank you, Yasmin, for the answer. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we can move to the motion. Be it resolved, the BUSU board approves the president's expenses for COCA. Oh, sorry, Austin has his hand up. Austin, would you like to say something before we move to a mover and seconder?
I know what Robert said earlier about the possibility of that, like credit card statement, Visa statement changing just because it isn't actually finalized. Is there like a thought of postponing this directly until that is released, or are we just going to hop in without knowing the actual full understanding of what finances there are?
I'm okay with that. I think, as I stated at the beginning, I think we just needed some context because the topic sheet for the next item mentioned that attendance in the conference, it's funds that weren't like in the budget and weren't approved. I think we got the context. If everyone would rather wait and get even more context to vote on it, it's fine with me. Robert, if you'd like to go ahead and say something.
Yeah, I mean, you can choose if you want to put a motion to table it, then it would require a mover and seconder and would get voted on. The alternative, if it passes, it's tabled. If it isn't, it reverts back to the original motion. That's an option before you. And then alternatively, you go with the original motion and you need a mover, a seconder, and a vote. So you know, at your discretion as the board.
Austin and Carly, your hands went up at the exact same time. Carly, you can go ahead. Ladies first.
Thanks, James. I was just going to motion to table it. But if Austin has something he'd like to say that he feels is important to say before that, feel free, if that's okay with you, Chair. But otherwise, I was just going to motion to table it till the next meeting.
Austin, do you have anything?
I'm just going to second Carly.
Oh, I was muted. That's easy. We have a mover and a seconder to table. Are there any abstentions?
Discussion first.
Oh, yes. Any questions or comments? discussion about tabling this? Go ahead.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, James. Was I able to speak about why all I heard was like part of what I think was go ahead. I don't know who you were talking to.
Go ahead if you have something to say. Go for it.
Oh, okay. I just want to say why I was in favor of tabling it. I don't necessarily always think that's the solution. I think that comes up a lot, but in this case, seeing as it wasn't going to originally be mentioned until the August meeting anyway, I think it's good that we now all have the context, and I thought that was really helpful, but I don't see any harm in making sure those numbers are finalized before we approve it.
Thank you, Carly. Does anybody else have anything? Faison, your hand is still up. Still not sure if that's from before or not. I think it is. All right. I will assume that the discussion is done.
My bad. That's up for before, I guess.
Okay. Do we have anybody abstaining? Fatin? Am I voting on this? I think I am voting on this. It says there's 12 people. So. Oh no, I'm not voting. Never mind.
I think Hannah's gone. Hold on.
No,
Yeah,
it says there's 12.
There's 10 voting members.
Yeah, so I'm not voting.
Yasmin, were you abstaining? Yeah.
Yes.
I was just gonna say I was gonna abstain if I did have a vote, but I do not.
You don't. Okay.
Anyone else abstaining? All those against? And all those for tabling. So, moving on to item. We got some hands up there. There's a really big fight. Okay, give me a sec. Ben, is your hand up for a question? Or was it up for in favor? Okay, no. Okay, so item 15, Student Union Development Summit. The speaker, again, is Andy. Who is taking this? Austin will be taking this. Take it away, Austin.
All right, so thank you, everyone. The Student Union Development Summit, as Ben has already mentioned in the meeting, is the conference that is hosted annually by the Alma Mater Society of the University of British Columbia. Last year, the entire exec team, so like the VPFA, VPSS, VPEA, and president all went to this conference. It is a great time where you can learn everything. So like, for example, this conference is kind of similar thing to COCA, where they have workshops throughout the day, networking at nighttime with the different student leaders throughout the country. Student like the union teams from pretty much every university in the country are invited. From the USU schools, every USU school except for Laurentian is going to be in attendance. This year, there's workshops, including media relations workshops, workshops on effective campaigns, effective advocacy, lobbying, sexual violence response, and equity, diversity, and inclusion. Last year, we also had a keynote speaker who was the current Attorney General and Minister for Housing of British Columbia. And he spoke about his, background of how like being a advocate for people, and how he used to be a person who ran for student government, and how he wanted to like advocacy work outside of government, and then how he ran for government and is making effective change, and how we are all responsible for leading meaningful change. So it's a really beneficial experience for student leaders to have, and it's also something that I'm just going to note that all of the EAs from BUSU schools will be in attendance, because a lot of the like workshops workshops are kind of centric for the advocacy kind of realm. So that's also like VPFA with Andy, since she's going to be taking on a lot of internal advocacy, and our plan is to kind of transition the FA role into more of a internal advocacy role over like the finance, just because it needs to get a little bit more on it. It would be very beneficial for that role to also be in, part of that. In the motion itself, in the summary, it also mentions how Andy hasn't been to any, like the FA hasn't been to any professional development. Yasmin has gone to COCA. It mentions how I go to 4 USU events. Just to note, those USU events, none of them are actually professional development. Those are just responsibilities that the EA has to USA. So like, for example, 2 of them are the general assemblies where we have to just ratify the policies. One of them is lobby week, where we're going to be engaging with the actual MPPs and ministers. And one of them is the alumni, or it was the Partners in Higher Education dinner, which is where we engage with basically anyone who's relevant in the post-secondary sector, and it's like a end of the year dinner type thing. And there's a strong likelihood that other executives will be in attendance there as well. So none of those are professional development. So SUDS is the opportunity for the EA to get that professional development as well. So anyone, if you have any questions, please feel free. I know that Ben mentioned earlier how I did go last year. It is definitely something that I believe would be beneficial to do again this year, because there's new workshops, there's new speakers, there's more opportunity to learn. I'm obviously not a master at lobbying. I'm not a master at advocacy. I'm not a master at all the workshops that will be there. And this is still a chance to continue to grow in my role and better and more effectively represent the students. So if you have any questions, I'm here.
Any questions for Austin or comments? Aisha, please go ahead.
Okay, so my question's not for Austin, my question's for Robert. It's a quick-ish question. So Robert, when we vote on this motion to approve for each one of the execs, are we approving that cost that was previously spent last year, which is the anticipated cost? So that's 2,500. And also, if anything goes wrong comparing or considering the inflation prices, as well as the fact that prices are not the same between that year and the current year, is there a surplus that covers that in the budget, or is that something we need to be worried about before we approve each one of these motions?
For you, Mr. Chair. So Aisha, none of these expenses have been approved. Now, that is not all that irregular in that every year the student executives that I've been here, this is my 5th time through this, they've come to the board with a request for funding for this particular event. So that is not irregular. So the fact that they're coming to you in advance is not something that is irregular in any way, shape, or form. So it has not been budgeted. So the amount of money that it cost last year, because we know what that cost is, about $2,500 per person. We can't actually tell you what it will be this year. It will not exceed 3,500, but it will. It certainly will be, certainly at least 2,500. So if we looked at this from a range of somewhere between $2,500 and $3,500, that's what it will cost per person. So when the motions come forward, your consideration is that for each and every person, it will be between $2,500 and $3,500. There is no surplus. So if you actually approve it, there won't be a surplus between that range. But in terms of, what you're really doing is, if you approve this, is that both Andrea and I, who are tasked with the finances, have to figure this out. Could we figure it out? I could tell you we can. It's not really a math exercise. It's more of a, what should we be doing as an organization? And that is really within your purview as board members. And then from a budgetary perspective, You know, between Andrea and I think we will be able to figure it out, and we can certainly present what we figure out back to you as a board. But for the purposes of right now, this event is occurring Friday the 12th until the 15th of August. So it is imminent. It's going to be happening. It is coming to you in advance, which is good. So that's what I've got on this item, if that's helpful to you, Aisha.
It is, thank you.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Robert. Austin, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, just another quick thing. Like last year, for example, networking is a massive thing that's important here. Like I was able to speak to the University of Windsor Student Union. They ended up getting the international tuition frozen at their school. Talking to them, like what kind of their process was. Granted, Brock was super on board already when we were kind of talking to them. But they definitely helped with that kind of process of how they were able to get like a massive advocacy win. Same thing with the University of Alberta with open educational resources, or Western. I mean, there's in USA also. To these got awesome to see that, and they help you do it at your home campuses as well. So that's why, like, just a little extra thing of why, like, it's important to make sure that at least the advocacy people get to go to this.
Thank you, Austin. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Ben, go ahead. Did you guys hear me there?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I just wanted to, like, for one thing, about what Robert said for last year, I was just disappointed because from like some of the tickets were in advance prior to that, and I just heard from some of the other board members, and like I didn't vote on that because I was disappointed in that sense. So I just want to say as a moving forward, I just don't want that to happen. So that's just an important thing, that I just don't want to see happen again. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Any other comments or questions? All right, well, I guess we're gonna move to the motions. It says here 4 separate motions, but we have this like general one at the top. Are we still doing this one at the top? I have to do this one, okay. So be it resolved, the BUSU board approves that BUSU is represented at the Student Union Development Summit. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Alex and Carly. All right. I was just about to say, do we have any abstentions? Fatin, will you be joining them in abstaining?
Yep.
Okay. All those against? All right, so I'm assuming the rest of us will be voting in favor to the first motion. Next motion. Be it resolved, travel, conference, and associated fees are approved for the VPFA. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Alex and Carly again. Does anyone wish to change their vote from the previous vote? Ben, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I believe I did mention earlier, but I didn't quite clarify, just about that. I think it would be best if we approve for Yasmin and Andrea, but not Austin and Fatin, and that's just because they have had the experience. That's what I'm recommending as an amendment, and I'll leave it to you, Chair. Thank you.
I am going to assume that this won't be taken as a friendly amendment. I will ask Austin and Fatin if they would like to jump in here. Fatin, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah. Ben, I understand where you're coming from. But one of the biggest parts of this conference is actually like be connecting with the other universities, student unions, and we have a lot of workshops where we kind of give and take advice and things like that. That's one piece of it. And execs change every year. Like, although me and Austin are repeating, other schools are probably like very different with who their execs are and what their experiences are. And I would also say what we need to know and what's helpful for us varies year to year. So for example, last year, a lot of things we discussed had largely to do with COVID because the pandemic was pretty bad compared to how it is now. So I would say we have a lot of new things to learn from that experience. And I think it would be a different experience than it was last year, since we are no longer in a pandemic. And I think like, for example, with COCA, like I felt the need to go because I didn't really do any actual like big events last year as VPSS, so I didn't have that experience. So I felt like I needed that experience. And then with this, there's a lot of aspects to this job that have changed since we're fully back in person now, right? So I do think we do have things to learn, and there are things that we probably will learn that we did not get the chance to last year. Thank you.
Austin, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah. Am I frozen? All right, cool. So sorry, my computer just said unstable connection. Yeah, so kind of building off what Patton just said there, the workshops last year are different than the workshops this year. And I'm sure Robert could probably tell you that you don't become an effective leader or an effective person in the high up executive role in general until you've had a handful of years under your belt of learning and of constantly trying new things or going to new opportunities to learn. So SUDS this year is a different SUDS than the SUDS last year, just because it's a completely different learning environment. For example, even with the networking piece, all full executives, like from all the different BUSU schools teams that are going to be returning to SUDS this year. Fatin and I are two of them. Then there's going to be one person from the University of Ottawa, and there's going to be one person from the University of Waterloo. Every other executive from all of those teams are new faces, as far as I know, at least. Which, if you think about it, if each school has around 4 executives, Western has 6 executives, then we don't actually know a handful of these people. Now, if you think of the schools in BC, then think of the schools in Alberta, then you think of the schools throughout the rest of the country, we don't actually have connections at any of these schools because they are all fresh faces. If you're thinking of this city of Alberta. Shut. Can you hear me? Okay. So if you think about some of these schools like the University of Alberta, who has completely switched over from a paid textbook system where you have to pay for textbooks, like in your classes, like we are doing like at Brock right now, they switched to free textbooks for all students. Well, how do you get a win like that without talking to people who've already had successes? So that's one of these things that we build connections with people. We learn about the things that they're doing at their schools, and we partner with them and we learn how to do things better. So that's why, for me personally, like as one of the lead advocates for the students at Brock, I believe that I should be there, because not only are these workshops all about external advocacy, like how effective advocacy, lobbying, like campaigns. Those are three massive things about my job. Equity, diversity, inclusion, that's another massive thing with my job. So of everyone to be on this trip, that would be the EA. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Stefan, you can go ahead. Or was your hand up from before? All right, Ben, you can go ahead.
Thank you. You know, honestly, the only reason why I'm trying to, you know, push this is just because it is student money at the end of the day. And yeah, so I appreciate what Fatin and Austin said. How I see this, you know, applying to those circumstances is that there still have been opportunities for, you know, through COCA for the president to meet other student leaders and so forth, and that's going to be and I would just say, you know, from that perspective, it's just something where it's a matter of balance, you know, because, you know, unfortunately, these things just aren't free. And, you know, for an important advocacy point, you know, affordable textbooks, something that I would recommend. Like there's just so many great alternatives that we can consider. Like, for example, on affordable textbooks, like Brock just hired a new vice provost who is a tremendous expert in that field and has done a lot of work in BC around affordable textbooks, and is bringing that expertise to his role as vice provost teaching and learning. So I believe that networking within this institutions can be tremendously valuable for pushing those advocacy points. And to that extent, I just, you know, really want to make sure that we're balancing these different priorities that, you know, some, you know, may be necessary expenditures, some maybe aren't, even though they have benefits, there could be alternatives. So I want to make sure we consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Aisha, you can go ahead.
Thank you, James. Just wanted to start by saying that I appreciate Ben being consistently conscious of how the money is being spent and how we are distributing money that is given to us. The first point I wanted to make would be in reference to being able to ensure that we are providing the students the best experience. I don't know if everybody else had, I'm pretty sure everybody else had different experiences, but I think something that Brock, BUSU, and generally the student population is looking forward to in this school year is being able to have a vastly different, if anything, superior experience that we've all had in the past 2 or 3 years. I think that having this platform where we all get to learn, where all the execs get to learn and bring back this knowledge to every other part of the student union and even share this knowledge with maybe other departments at the university is an important opportunity that I think we can't pass on. I also think that I appreciate you being able to, you know, have that knowledge and research of the resources that exist within the institution, which is Brock. I would like to point out that we have a special position as well as a special role in terms of being student representatives to go out there and source out or be that one to do the research to bring in the student perspective on what can be done through the student perspective. For example, I don't know how the Senate works real well, but I do know that part of being on the Senate as student representative is being able to bring that student perspective into the conversation that's able to change the minds or convince the people on the academic side, as well as all the other departments that are included in that conversation to make change. So I think it would be really important to have more or less, if not the EA, the SS, and the FA, at least all three execs, even if it's not the president included, to attend the summit, so we are able to bring a new perspective to each part of our conversations for student engagement, student development. I think there's a potential for a lot of change to be made.
Ben, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you. Sorry, just one thing I forgot to mention was just, about the nature of this opportunity is, it's not that this opportunity is actually like going away. I mean, sometimes like when you're a staff member, you have to pay out of pocket for some things. And not that that's ideal, but it just, does happen a lot. And we did just, approve the raises. And, I just want to put that out there. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Fatin, you can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I just want to note that I don't personally, outside of work, care to go to SUDS, but I professionally, as president of this organization, think that I should go, since the executives do report to me. There's a lot of things, I mean, that they could benefit from, of course, but since they do report to me, I should also, be present, I think, at a conference where every other president is also usually present. And I also think it would be a weird look on BUSU's end if BUSU is the only organization without their president there. But yeah.
Thank you, Fatin. Does anyone else have anything to say? All right, seeing none. Well, I mean, looking back, I don't really think Ben had much of an amendment because we are voting on everyone separately. Ben was just stating his opinion on who he would vote for. So I don't really think we have to vote on an amendment here, right? Yeah, all right, so continuing on with the vote. So this is be it resolved, travel, conference, and associated fees are approved for the VPFA. Alex and Carly are the mover and the seconder. All those abstaining. All right.
Here.
Oh, I was muted. All those against. And we'll assume that the 6 other votes are in favor. Next motion. Be it resolved, travel, conference, and associated fees are approved for the VPSS. Do I have a mover? Carly and Alex. All right. All those abstaining.
Discussion.
What? Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Carly, is your hand up from before, or do you have something to say? All those abstaining. All those against. And I'll assume that the other 6 are in favor. All right, next motion. Be it resolved, travel. Oh, Aisha, would you like to say something?
Oh, sorry, my hand went up faster than you finished the motion.
I see. You're trying to beat Alex and Carly, huh? Be it resolved, travel, conference, and associated fees are approved for the VPEA. Aisha as the mover, Carly as the seconder. All right, all those abstaining. All those against. And I'll go ahead and assume that the 5 others are in favor. And the last motion. Be it resolved, travel, conference, and associated fees are approved for the president. Do I have a mover? I think Ben's hand is up from before. Alex, do we have a seconder? Aisha. All those abstaining. Kaylee, you have 4 abstentions. All those against? And we'll assume that the other 4 are in favor. All right. Well, that concludes all our motions. Does anybody have anything to share with the rest of the board? Robert, please go ahead.
Very, very quickly. So it was mentioned tonight several times that Andrea wasn't present. So Andrea had very much booked vacation in advance, and many of the motions that were brought forward tonight, Andrea worked on. In terms of her presence, she booked some vacation, she's away, and she delegated her presentation responsibilities to various different folks. So I just wanted to make sure that that I made sure that the board was fully aware of that. She wasn't just not here. She had very much planned to go on vacation, and she is on vacation. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Thank you, Robert. And Kaylee, to your message in the chat. So in our poll, in our group chat, not everyone has answered, but the most votes so far are 7 votes for moving the August meeting to a day after it was originally scheduled, so to Wednesday the 31st. If you are listening and you haven't answered the poll in the group chat, go ahead and do that. And if the day changes, Kaylee, I will let you know. Or anything in, has anyone tried Aaliyah's, what is it, avocado with sugar yet? Because I still have not. I think we just want to adjourn.
James hit a coyote.
Yes, I hit a coyote 2 nights ago. And then yesterday I realized that my whole front license plate is missing. So I gotta go to Service Ontario and get a new license plate.
That's kind of
How
sick.
fun. No, it really wasn't.
I just took mine off. It doesn't look nice.
All right. Austin has already moved to adjourn in the chat. We don't even need a seconder, and Carly has seconded that. Thank you.